enjoy the presentation. What we will discuss is the following. First, we look a little bit at a definition of analyzing. Then we look at the process of analyzing. Then what kind of analysis are there? We look at the complexity of football, because analyzing football is pretty complex. It's not an easy thing to do. Then we look at the model on how to gather data. And then we end with the most important thing, is a model of how to analyze. Now, basically, the way I see football, football is an organized chaos. You can't analyze football in a way that, like mathematics, that there is a mathematical equation that you can chunk down football by an equation that is impossible. So even if you analyze the same game a few times, you will always see different things. There is something, in my opinion, that I always say football is the only individual sport that you play together. What does that mean? Football is decided by individuals. That means the guy who scores the goal, the guy who gives the end pass, or even defensively, there is always one player, mostly either, who decides the game in a positive or even decides the game in a negative. That's why I always say football is the only individual sport that you play together. So analyzing is also a big part, looking at individual qualities. So the question is there an equation for football? Like they want to mathematically, people want to analyze football with a lot of data. I don't think there is. There's a lot of knowledge that you build over time, that you see the dynamics of football, and what they are, we will get into. Basically, if you would have 10 games, 10 مباريات, where you have 2 teams with the same players, نفس اللاعبين, so team A and same team B. If you play 10 times after each other, you will get 10 times a different result. This already shows that if you analyze football, you will always have a different outcome. It's not easy to analyze football. And as I said, if you have 2 teams with the same players, 10 times play, you will get 10 times a different result. That's a good starting point to know. So what is the definition? The definition of analyzing is basically, analyzing is the process of breaking down a complex game into smaller parts in order to gain a better understanding of the total. So what does that mean? It's a process. So you need to have a good process by what you're doing to break down a complex game into smaller parts in order to gain a better understanding of the total. So you need to break down the game in smaller parts. And how to do that, of course, we will look into in a bit. The most important thing, football is a very complex sport. And what that means, I will show you also in a bit. The process. Now, the process of analyzing is basically you gather information. Once you have that information, you analyze it, you try to organize the information. Then you specify the data. That means basically you would organize it into defending, offense, set pieces, formations, etc. Then you try to find patterns. I have described within my presentation what patterns mean. I look for a translation into Arabic. But finding patterns in analyzing is the most important thing. And then in the end, you should be able to create conclusions. And as you probably will sit maybe with your friend, if you analyze a game, both watching the same game, many times you come to different conclusions. And you have to try to be as objective as possible. Now, what is important to think of? Your bias towards football. So how do you as a coach or an analyst see football? I translated it into Arabic. Maybe that makes a good understanding. So the bias, how do you see football? Are you an attacking minded person, a defensive minded person? But the way you look to football is influenced by that. Do you prepare before you're going to analyze a game, or just you go to the game and just see what's happening? There's a big difference. Do you prepare with finding certain information, or you just go see and be objectively and just see a game? The easiest and best way to analyze is always afterwards. So whenever I analyze a game, I make sure that afterwards I have a video of it and I'm going to watch it again, maybe two times, three times, because that's the only way to properly analyze a game. Analyzing during the game as a coach is not easy because you have so many transitions. There are so many things happening. So it takes experience, it takes time in order to build a good vision, a good idea on how to analyze a game. So during a game, there are a lot of things you will miss. So I go back to the thing I said before, that you need to be able to have the video afterwards in order to properly see what's happening. We're going to look on how to gather the data. So the model of how to gather data. One second. So basically what is important is one, I think it's very important to know the coach of the opponent team or the team that you're going to analyze, what the coach's ideas are. You can do research, you can look for information, because the way a coach makes decision or the way he lines up his team is very important. That is one. Secondly, basically the idea that you have about football, and it is basically defending, attacking, set pieces, the transition moments, that you have a good understanding of the game and how to gather information about the game. Thirdly, the qualities of individual players. Very, very important, because as I said before, individual players, they decide the games. So when you analyze, I look a lot for individual qualities. Who is the most dominant in the game, or who is the weakest link within the game? So individual qualities is a big, is an important part within analyzing a game. Of course, analyzing individuals is also part of recruitment. So you could go to a game to watch for an individual, and you just are there for recruitment, not for analyzing the game itself. In which league are you playing? In which country are you playing? There's a big difference. You can see it many times when a South American team plays against a European team. They have complete different styles, and that has influence on the way football is played. So also it will influence on the way you look at football, or the way you have to analyze football. And the last part is basically what I said, your own knowledge. Do you have a background as a football player? How long did you work in football? So your own knowledge on football and your bias on football is also important to know. So those 5 things I would always take as a starting point on how to gather information on a game. What types of analysis are there? Basically, you analyze one game, and that is basically to recognize the game dynamics. But if you're going to analyze a team, so that means, let's say I next week play against the team Al Arabi, then I will have to see many games of this team. And that means a cluster of games. So there's a difference in analyzing just one game, or you're going to analyze a team. That means a team that you're going to play against, and you will have to get more information about that team. Same thing, the analysis of your own team. So you play a game, and during the game you need to analyze, and afterwards how well did you do? So a post-match analysis. The analysis of training exercises. I do that a lot also during my training, that I record the training, so I also can see what we're doing in the training. That is also part of analyzing. And of course, getting to know the strengths and weaknesses of an individual player. And that is basically, how do you call it, mostly for recruitment. So these 5 areas, in my opinion, you will, as a coach, you will have to analyze. Now we'll have a look at the complexity of football. So I will compare 3 sports. That means athletics, tennis, and football. Now, what are we going to look for first is what is the skill that you need for each sport? How is the space used in each sport? Are there any transition moments in each sport? The physical component and the resistance of the opponent? And are there any tactics involved? And what I want to show you or want to prove to you is that football is one of the most complex sports there is, and therefore also difficult to analyze. And of course, in the end, how many people are participating. Now, if you look at the skill, if we start with athletics, it's just plain running. So you don't need much skill. It's about speed and power and running. If you look at tennis, tennis is, you need the technique, you need the physical, you need the technical and even mental. But the main skill is by hand and eye coordination. That is way more easier than football, because football is foot-eye coordination. If I have to play a ball with my foot, it's way more difficult than playing tennis. You can see many times football players can play tennis, but tennis players cannot play football. So the way you use the skill in football is way more complex than many other sports. How do you use space? In athletics, it's just one direction. It is basically going all out and only for 10 seconds. Tennis is also only one direction, going and coming, although there is a little bit of space to the left and to the right, but it's just one direction. And football is clear that you can change direction to all sides. So it's way more complex in the way the space is used compared to the other sports. If you look at the transition moment, athletics is basically only attacking. It's just running, that's it. Tennis, there is only one transition moment. You play, you get it back. You play, you get it back. There are no other transition moments. With football, it's obvious there is constantly a transition. You can be in ball possession for a minute. You can be in ball possession for a few seconds. You lose it again. You have to drop in, use the space, go back, forward. So the transition moments are way more than any other sport, and it's very unpredictable. The physical component, running you can do without any opponent. It's about who's the fastest. So you can run with 100 people, or you can run alone. The outcome is the same. With tennis, you have an opponent who influences you, but he's on the other side. He cannot touch you, but he does influence you. With football, it's obvious there is an opponent from left, from right, from behind, who can influence your even your skill. So also there you can see it is way more complex. Are there any tactics involved with running? I would not say there are tactics, because it's just basically going all out and running. With tennis, there is tactics involved, because you have an opponent. You will have to try to beat him. You look at his defensive skills in the way he returns the ball and his service skills. And with football, yeah, it's obvious. It's attacking, defending, set pieces. So that means there is a huge part tactics involved. In order to beat your opponent is not easy. Why? Especially because of you have 22 players on the field. With running, there's only one person who runs. With tennis, 2 or 4, and with football, 22. So what I want to make sure, or what I might want you to make you understand, is that football is a very complex sport. And that's why the way people look at it, you can have different visions on what you actually saw and how you analyze football. And that is because the complexity of football. The best way to show you is, if you see this picture, if each black dot is a football action, it can be where you kick the ball, it can be running, whatever, any football action, they are all related to each other. And that is very difficult to see. It takes time, it takes training to see the relationship between football actions. And I think this is a very good illustration to make you understand that what the complexity of football means. So if you would take all those football actions and you would put them into a computer or you analyze it, the question is, what comes out and what are we going to analyze? Now, what is important is and it is my opinion, on the field, there are so many things happening, running, sprinting, crossing, dribbling. There's so many pieces of information that only with your eye, you cannot see everything. And I will explain later the importance of on how to analyze, and even sometimes you can use data or a computer to help you. So there are thousands of pieces of information. So the core idea, the most important idea to analyze is one, the formation versus the formation. And we will get back to that later. We'll go more into detail. So the way one team is lined up against the other team, that's always the starting point. The second thing is the patterns in attacking play, the patterns in defense play, and of course the patterns in set pieces. So those 4 areas you analyze in, and you try to create a good picture, a good image for your players to understand the game, and to create a plan in order to how do you call it, when you play against the next opponent. So looking for patterns, and I wrote it here down in Arabic, so maybe that makes an understanding the word patterns, because it's not a word maybe you hear many times. An English person will not use that many times, but looking for patterns is the most important thing. The connections between the players, the connections offensively, defensively, and with set pieces. An example of a pattern I will show here. So let's say that the blue team is playing a 4-3-3. So we spoke about the first thing, we look at the formations. In this case, they play 4-3-3. And the red team is playing a 4-4-2. Now that has consequences, but I will talk about that later. We're talking first about patterns. So the first pattern I want to show you as an example. Let's say that on the right side, these players making a rotation. A rotation means between 2-3 players, they try to create space for each other. So what you will see is that the player that this one, the defender, he will be confused. Should I stay with number 7 or should I stay with number 2? So the red team is creating an attacking pattern that you as an analyst need to try to see. So in this case, they play the ball to the side. The winger is going deep. And from there, they try to get an attack forward. I choose this pattern as an example in the following video. Now, 2 seasons ago, the team that I was coaching the red team. This was the 3rd game in the season, I think. So we're still getting to know each other a lot. You will see that the blue team was trying to execute that pattern that I'm showing you. And I will show you 5 attempts where they're trying to do this. So you see here that the midfielder is dropping in. Then the wing back is going up. And then the winger is coming inside. Now, that is very important to see. So what they wanted to do is this player on the ball now, he wants to play a deep ball, but nobody is making the deep run. But the rotation was there. So then the next attack would maybe be, they would play the ball to the side and from there go forward. Now, what is important is that this is an ineffective attempt. Me as a coach, I recognize, because I studied this team before, I recognize that they were trying to do this, but it's not effective because there's no result. I would call that an ineffective attempt. So we go to the second attack. This is all in the beginning of the 15 minutes of the beginning of the game. So you will see every time the same idea. You see here again, the ball will go to the side. And what is important now is watch the winger, that he's going in the back of the defender. He's lining up already. So he's waiting. He wants him to get the ball. He's pointing, give me the ball. And again, the player with the ball is not playing. So again, this is an ineffective attempt, but this is the second time they're trying to do this. The third time, same idea. You see again this rotation. The midfielder will drop in. The left wing back is going up. And the winger is already inside. So what you will see, the ball will go to the side, and then the winger will make a deep run, and they play that ball into the corner, and we intercept it. So this is also an ineffective attempt, but partly because they're becoming more dangerous. So already 3 times they're doing the same pattern. You see here number 4. So again, this is all within 15 minutes of the beginning of the game. So if you are analyzing, you should see this pattern. You should recognize this. You see here again the strike of the winger. He wants to make the deep run. He's ready, but he doesn't get the ball. So, and we intercept it. And again, an ineffective attempt. Now, number 5, they score from this attempt. They tried to attack my right wing back. He was quality-wise not that great, but you can see here already he's lining up. The winger behind him. The wing back is defending completely wrong. And he plays the ball perfectly behind the defense. Bad defending from my wing back. And the keeper made a mistake and goal. So, and this is an effective attempt. So they had now 5 attempts, 5 times the same idea. So me as a coach, I need to, after this game, you're going to discuss this with your players in order to how to deal with these things. But the same thing, if you are watching the game, within 15 minutes, you should have seen this pattern. So it's just one example of a pattern. So what is important when you're looking for patterns is successful ones, so as the last one is easy to see. But ineffective attempts, they are difficult to recognize. And I think that is a very important part, that you as an analyst or as a coach, that you are able to see what the plan is of the coach, of the other team. Or when you're analyzing the game from outside, that you see even those moments when they're not effective, but still you try to recognize that pattern. It's a very important part, in my opinion, of analyzing. To see when it's successful is easy, but the ones that are not effective. So what I want to say with this is, try to create a mental library of patterns. For instance, when I train my team, I do a lot of rotations attacking. I do a lot of rotation defending. So if my team has my own patterns, I also start recognizing them with the other team many times. So you need to have a mental library. I wrote it down in Arabic below, in your head, that you learn how to recognize these patterns as quickly as possible. So how do we find these patterns? You have 2 options. One, through data, and 2, to observation. And both you need. I will show you a small clip of Marcelo Bisla and listen to what he has to say. Because he works a lot with data. He works with a lot of information, but listen to what he has to say.
Voy a contar una anécdota que ilustra esto. I'm going to tell you a story that illustrates this. Dirigiendo el Athletic de Bilbao. When I was the head coach of Athletic Bilbao, jugamos la final con el Barcelona. We played the final against Barcelona. Nos ganaron 3-0. Barcelona won 3-0. Fue un acto de generosidad de parte de ellos. And they were generous with us. Después del tercer gol, decidieron que era suficiente. Because after scoring the 3rd goal, they stopped playing. A mí me dio una profunda tristeza esa derrota, como es natural. And as you can imagine, I was very sad to lose this game. Cuando terminó el partido, when the game finished, yo le mandé a Guardiola. I sent to Guardiola this analysis, como un regalo que testimoniaba admiración. As a gift that was expressing my admiration for him. Y Guardiola lo miró. And Guardiola had a look at it. Y me dijo, vos sabés de el Barcelona un montón de cosas que yo no sé. And he told me that you know more about Barcelona than me. Pero no sirvieron para nada porque nos metieron 3. But it was useless information because they scored 3 goals against us. Cuando yo digo que no sirve para nada, when I say all this information is not useful, y que lo hago exclusivamente para sentirme más en paz. That I do it exclusively to feel well. Es porque ya lo he verificado infinidad de veces que esto no permite ganar partidos. And when I say that it's not useful, it's because I could see many times that this kind of information does not allow you to win games. Nosotros, la mitad de los goles los hemos recibido de pelota detenida. Half of the goals we conceded were from set pieces. Si fuera tan efectivo la observación y espiar a los rivales. If the observation and spying on the opponent was so effective, nos hubiera servido para neutralizar esa cuestión. We would have found a solution on this subject. No nos sirvió para nada. But it was not useful at all for us.
So the coach says very clearly, a good coach, if spying on the opponent was so useful, then we should have won. This already, I explained the complexity of football. It's not just a product of this plus this plus this, and we will win. So what you see here, the example in the background, he is a coach who gathers a lot of information. And I call that data gathering, and I will get into that in a bit. So we're going to be a little bit more specific now. So analyzing, the model of analyzing is one, event data, tracking data, the qualities of the individual player, so the data of an individual player, goals scored and goals conceded, and chances created and chances conceded. There's a difference when you analyze a team, like your next opponent. I will always look at the goals conceded, like over 10, 20 games, how many goals they conceded and how many goals they scored. And I will try to find a pattern there. If you look at one game, I will look more at the chances created and the chances conceded. And today I will look more into the goals scored and goals conceded. The formations, normally I always start with the formations within the analysis, but I will do this a little bit later. It's a very important part. And the last thing, the decisions of the coach. So how he makes his substitutes, that is very important. You need to know that, and even you need to see that. Some coaches, they always do the same, and some coaches, they're tactically very smart. They know how to influence a game. And if you analyze, you need to recognize that also. And again, it's about the relationship between them, the pattern between them. From all that information, you need to find the great idea, the patterns, defensively, offensively, and set pieces. Let's have a look at event data. Event data, basically, you need a computer. You need, in the big clubs in Europe, they have all this information that goes into a computer, and they gather this information. So what is event data? These are all the individual football actions. So what does that mean? Like when you dribble, when you shoot, when you give an assist, when the keeper dives, saves the ball, the shooting accuracy, how many shots on goal, all these things we call event data. So just to give an example here, you can see here, this player, he's making a dribble. He plays a back pass. Then we play a wing pass. Then again, we get a dribble with a cross. The cross is not successful. So at that same moment, they get a corner. So the corner will be taken. And that is a corner. So that what I'm talking, the event is the corner. Then the keeper catches the ball. Keeper gives a throw. So keeper throw. Then here Lukaku, he shields the ball. He protects it. Then he goes for a dribble. Then we get a cross. Then we get a back pass. We get a shot. And we get another shot. So all these things called event data, you as a coach cannot gather that. But if you have a club where they gather all this information, there's a lot of useful things that you can get, that you can use on who gets most of the time the balls. But these are statistics. Then we have, and there are within a game, there can be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 event data per game. But again, This is not something you go see the game that you cannot write that down. You need computer data for that. Then we go to tracking data. Tracking data is basically look at 6 seconds of football. So only 6 seconds, I show you. I want to explain something. So the following 6 seconds. So within these 6 seconds, you can see that all the players with ball and without ball, their movement. So they're moving all the time. So this is movement data. That's why you have the GPS system, etc. And this is the offensive movement. Of course, it's also from the opponent team, their movement, their defensive movement. Now, this is only 6 seconds. So over 90 minutes, the way they move, you can get a lot of useful information. But again, you need a computer for that. And this is what we call statistics. Statistics, they say what is happening, not why it's happening. There's a difference. So statistics, they say what is happening, not why it is happening. So an example of statistics, and everyone sees something like that before. If you have 2 games, in this game, in the following game, you see here England against Serbia, it was, I think. You see England had here 8 shots on goal, of 8 total shots. 5 shots on target, and the opponent only 2. It had 3 corners, attacking corners, and the opponent only 1. It had 65% of ball possession and the other 35. And the result, England won the game. So this statistic shows that the team, in this case, England was better. But is that always the case? No, that is not always the case. If you look here at Argentina against Germany, here you see that Germany had 10 shots on goal and Argentina only 5. 5 of 8 were on target and Argentina only 4. Germany had 8 corners. The only difference, Germany had only 33% of ball possession and Argentina 67. But in the end, Argentina won. So this statistic, basically, Argentina, yes, had more ball possession, but you can clearly see that Germany have the better numbers. So the point here is very simple, that statistics don't explain what happened. It can be, but it's very subjective. So statistics, you have event data and tracking data, but you need a computer for that in order to use that information in the best possible way. We go to the individual quality of a player. It's a very, very important one. So analyzing individual qualities, you can do as a coach yourself or as an analyst. I myself, I give some examples here of Iniesta or Xavi. What is important here is that the player on the ball, I mean, there are 9 or 10 players who don't have the ball, so he can choose whoever he wants in order to be successful. But now, what is important is there can only be one relationship. There can only be one player on the ball who gives it to another player. Now, what is important is, So what is important is the player on the ball, the quality that he has. They always say a coach is as strong as the quality of his players. So the individual quality on the ball, his technique and his vision, that will make it successful. So I will always look in a team which player has which individual qualities. The same thing is the player without the ball. He needs to lose his opponent. He needs to somehow fool his opponent, and that is not easy. So when those 2 moments, so the player on the ball and the player without the ball, if they merge together, then you get success. And I go again to what I said before, you have also unsuccessful moments. But what is important is I look a lot within teams that I analyze. You can see it here, the vision that Xabi has here, the way he plays the pass, the execution, the speed, the accuracy, that is pure quality. And the more quality you have in a team, the better. And it's the same thing, the player without the ball, is he able to make the run on the right moment? And if he, in the end, is not able to score, everything was for nothing. So looking for individual qualities is extremely important. And scoring goals and giving the pass is easy to see. But in the next example, you see here, for instance, that from the midfield, the number 15, he makes a deep run. I will look, if I see this, I will look in other games. How many times does he do this? How many times does he do second line running? But again, the quality from Xabi here, he puts the pass perfectly in the area. But I would look also for that run. So the run that number 15 makes, that I'm going to look in other games if he does that more. And I'm trying to see if there's a pattern there. You can see it here, again, same example. But I want to show also the defensive part, the defensive individual quality. You have to, 1 second. So here you see that the defender that is here with Messi, he's only focusing on Messi. So individual quality can also be negative. So if you have a defender who is every time cutting the offside line, so he's sleeping, he's not moving up, that means that's a weak link. That's a weakness. So instead of saying somebody has a quality, he has a weakness. And mostly when it comes to defending, I look for weak links within a team, because I know that's the one that I need to attack. I gave you an example of my game where I showed you the patterns. The right back was a weak link. The opponent team was attacking him and they got a goal from that. So analyzing individual qualities is extremely important in order to be, if you want to play for the next team, to be successful. You also see that a lot with set pieces, where always 1 or 2 players are sleeping. So I will play the video. So you will see here in the back, the dark player, he will make a mistake. He will let go. The number 22 is going to score. He's blocked. So everyone is doing his job except 1 player. So I will go and check in all the set pieces from this team, if I would play against this team, to see if this player makes mistakes there, if he's too late, if he's not organizing. So I will show it again here, where you can see that player, that dark player, number 6, he makes a mistake. So I will look for individual weaknesses, especially when it comes for defense. Attacking, maybe the player who gives the corner, the quality of the corner, the quality of the passing, that could be an individual quality. Individual quality is also physical. You can see that on power and speed most of the time. And what I mean by that, I will show here. This player, he's breaking the game open. It's 0-0 on individual quality by speed and a good cross. So you can see here, he outruns them and give a perfect cross. You can see it here again. It's 1v1, where he's going to use his speed. So when I would play against his team, I would try to find a solution in order to stop him. I know what I would do, but that is difficult just to point it out here. But you can see here, so individual quality also on the physical level by speed and power. But the extra thing he has a fantastic cross. So that means this player is a dangerous player. I would go see in other games, how many times does he do this? We go to the goals scored and goals conceded. This is when you analyze a team, a specific team. Now, I'll give you an example here of Red Bull Leipzig. I made an analysis of this team before. What I did is I looked into the last 20 games. So 20 games they played, Champions League, Cup, and League. And within those 20 games, I looked for the goals that they conceded. So how many goals did they get against you? You also do that attacking, but I give now the example of their weakness, how they concede their goals. Within those 20 games, I found two specific patterns. They have two things where each pattern were 6 goals that showed they make mistakes there. They're not good organized there. And we'll have a look at that. First of all, we look at their formation. Basically, they played a 3-4-3. And it depends if those wingers, if they play more forward or more back, then it becomes a 5-3-2 of a 5-2-3. That is not important, but basically the lineup is the way you see it here in front of you, or sometimes they play the 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2, depends on how you call it. So problem number one, Red Bull's Leipzig is a team that like to play football. Now, what you see, the mistake they make is when they play football on the right side, you see many times that the left side is already opening up. And in the way I think, that can never happen. Because what happens is you open up the game. If you lose the ball, you will get counterattacks against you. And a team, you're talking about Red Bull Leipzig, the highest league in Germany, they make these mistakes. I found 6 goals within those 20 games where they 6 times where the goals against them, like this. So let's have a look at the video. Many times this player on the ball, he made a lot of mistakes on the ball. He's not very good on the ball. You can see here where he makes a dribble, and this team tried to play football. So I'm all for that. I'm the same type of coach. But what should happen now is the moment this ball is played, this guy who is with the red circle, he should think defensively. He should not open up. He should wait. So when the ball is lost, he could still have the chance here to consider it. He makes a mistake there and they score the first goal. This is goal number 1. Where they lose the ball, they're a bit open and you get a counterattack. Goal number 2. It's all the same team. You see here now, again, where basically they play 3 in the back, but I point out when this number 5 is going into the midfield, this number 23, he should stay. He can never go. He should stay because you're opening up otherwise. So you see here again, the number 5, he's playing the pass. The right back, he's going to run already forward also. They play a wrong pass and you get a counter attack against you. So we said the number 5, he dribbled in, and then the number 23, he should have stayed. And they score here the second goal. So basically, if I scroll it back here, so what is the most important thing here is that the number 27 it is. So number 27 here below, he should have stayed. Sorry, a little bit more back here. He should have stayed. And because he didn't stay and they lose the ball, they get the counter attack against them. You saw the goal. This is goal number 2. We go to goal number 3. The intention is also from the keeper to do a build-up. So what I'm showing you here now, these are patterns. These are patterns in the way they get goals against them. You see here the build-up, the 2 center backs with the red circle, they are open. If they lose the ball, number 1, 2, and 3, they basically can go quickly to the goal. They have a big chance of scoring. So the center back tried to play a long ball, but he plays a wrong pass. Other center backs are open in one touch. It's easy to give the ball away. So already I showed you 2 times the way they give the ball away is easy. And that is maybe because there's too much risk taking. This was goal number 3. Goal number 4. Now you see, because they play with 2 or 3 midfielders, many times you see that the midfielder steps out, and I will show you later in the second pattern, that is also a problem. Here he starts running with the ball. So if he loses the ball, again, you get a quick counter. Here they still have a little bit of time to recover. But what you see is, again, easy giving the ball away. And the way this player scores the goal, of course, is exceptional. But it's about that moment, losing the ball there in the midfield, that I think is not necessary. This is the 4th goal, easy losing ball and opening up. The 5th goal. Again, same player on the ball. Ball goes now here to the side. Now, what is important is the player on the right side up in the screen, this one. So the one I'm circling up now. This player cannot go or open up. I showed you that already before. When you're making build up on this side, you need to be more patient. You should not open up. So what happens? Wrong pass, gets intercepted. So that player that is indicated, he will go forward. And the right back up on the screen, if he would have stayed, he could have easily still recovered it. So this is goal number 5, losing easy ball, being open and getting a counter goal. Last goal. This is in a throw-in. And again, what is important here, the ball is on the right side, but you need to look at this left wing back. He already is opening up. He should think defensively. He should wait. He's walking forward. So now when lose the ball, you will see that the left back, number 23 here, if he would have been back, he could have still recovered this. But he can't recover now because he's too far open and score a goal. So the point here is 6 goals. 6 goals from, and there were 2 more goals where same idea. So that means if I would play against Red Bull Leipzig, this is something I would look forward to in when they play certain pressing and then try to get a counter attack in. This is a pattern, a negative pattern from Red Bull Leipzig. The second pattern, what I found, also 6 goals in the way they conceded as follows. You see here 2 midfielders, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. And they play 5 in the back. What happens many times is that the midfielder every time goes to the side. He steps out to the side. So you open up the midfield. Then the second thing, every time many teams, what they do is they make a run behind the defense line. You get a through pass. And then because there are 5 players up line and the zone in front of the defense is open, you get a back pass. And because the midfielders are away, they don't close this. They are too late. And then they score a goal. We'll show you 5 or 6 goals where this same pattern you can see. Here you see the formation 5-3-2 they're playing here. So the space is on the side. When the ball goes to the side, many times the midfielder, he will step out to there. You can see here the number 8, the dark player, he steps out. They get into the back. And this zone that I'm indicating now, this zone many times is open because the midfielders are not closing this space. And from there, they score a goal. Because all 3 midfielders are not tracking back there or they're stepping out to the sides. Ruh atraf, you say in Arabic. So the next goal, you can see here, as in how they are lined up to also show you which formation that they play. You see here the number 18 in this clip. He's going to the side. These are the midfielders. Here they play 2 and 1 behind the striker. He steps out. From there, they beat him. Then you will see somebody running behind the defense line. And you see again the back pass, this area, this back zone is again open and free. There's one midfielder who came, is too late. The other 2 are far away. This is goal number 2, that zone. So back pass, score. Goal number 3. This is against Dortmund. Again, you see here where the center back steps out, but you see again somebody getting behind the defense line, make the run behind, the through pass. You saw that with all 3 goals, of 2 goals before. And again, there's no midfield here. And the moment the ball is on the back line, back pass, and no midfielder to see, and they score. And this many times you get when you play 5 defender, when you play 5 line, then that zone in front is open. You see here goal number 4 was also against Dortmund. You can see here again the 3 midfielders. Somebody going to step out. Actually, they're staying now. You can see again a run. Somebody run behind the defense line. 5 defenders on a row. And again, in that same zone, the ball, because the midfielders are not closing this, and he scores it. You see goal number 5. Again, the 3 midfielders. Here they play again 2 holding midfielders, 2 Magwar and one behind striker. Here the midfielder again step out to the side, center back steps out, but you will see in a bit again when they get through. Again, back pass. So this is one of the midfielders. Number 27 is a second. He's not closing on the number 23. Back pass. In this case, he doesn't shoot. He plays wide. He plays atraf. Still have chance to get back. Nobody there. Back pass, and he scores it. So all the goals, they're not all exactly the same, but the idea, if I would play against Red Bull Leipzig, I will look for the 2 patterns that I showed you. So the first one and this one. That is one thing I would work on. And I just want to give you an example on if you analyze a team, you look at 5, 10, 15 games, and you take all the goals, every goal they get conceded, and try to find a pattern. And you, most of the time, you will find where is a weakness there. Formations. Now, formations is one of the most important things in football. The starting point, of course, I go very quickly. You have a 4-2-3-1. Everybody knows the formations. I just go a little bit to it. If he drops in, you get a 4-4-1-1. But more important is how do formations line up? I will show you that in a bit. So here is 4-4-2. So each coach has his preference. You have 4-4-2 in a diamond. Then you have 4-3-3. If you drop in, I like to play this system because if you drop in the wingers, you have a 4-5-1. So you can be very attacking and also be very defensive. You have 3 in the back, 3-4-3. Louis van Gaal used to play this a lot in Holland before. And then you have 3 in the back with 5 midfielders and 2 up front. And then if they drop in, you have a 5 defensive line. Or you play with the same system, but 2 Magwar and 1 behind striker. And then the last one, 3-4-3 that I just showed you that the other team played. Now, the most important thing, 50% of a game is organization, the formation versus the formation. In this case, I will show you a 4-3-3 against a 4-4-2. So each has positive, each has negative. So what is important is the responsibilities of each player. Who is defending who? Meen ma meen. Who is defending who? If that is good, 50% of the game you already have in your pocket. And that is also something you need to look for when you analyze a game. Are the responsibilities well organized? So we give you an example here first in an illustration. Let's say that one team play 4-3-3 and one team play 4-4-2 in a diamond. In the back, it's 4 of red and 2 of blue. In the middle, it's 3 of red and 4 of blue. And up front, it is 3 of red and 4 of blue. So basically, the first thing I would look at is who is responsible for who. And the 2 wingbacks of the red team, if they get the ball, who is going to define, who is going to catch them? And many times you see in teams that's not good organized. This is just an example. The same thing with the blue team, the Magwar. Who's the red team? Who is going to pick him up? So red have 3 and blue have 4. That can cause a problem. So there has to be a good idea how to catch this. So as an example, to make it very simple, understandable, if the right back has the ball of the red team, who is going to defend him? A simple solution could be that those 2 together, Mabat, and make the problem like this. They solve the problem like this. This could be a solution. But what could happen if we do this? and the number 10 of red, he go to the outside. So now the distance becomes much further. So how is he going to solve that? So that is something that you need to see when you analyze, or me when I am a coach and I'm watching the game. If I see every time the midfielder is going outside and my mahwar, he cannot catch, I need to have a solution. This is also a pattern within the formation, the responsibilities. How to do that, that is another story. So I give you an example of Dortmund against Schalke. So here one team plays a 3-4-3, and Schalke is the blue team, they play 5-4-1. Now, normally, when number 2 or number 4 has the ball, the two wingers, they will go press. And then the player on the side, Atraf, he go to there. Same on the other side. So here, the winger, he go for press. And then when the ball go to the side, the number 13, he will go press. The rest everywhere, wahed ma wahed, is clear. Now, we talk about responsibilities. So everybody knows who he needs to take, to catch. You see here the striker, the left winger, and the right winger. The ball will go to the left side of yellow team. They are organized. They go together for press. Good moment, good responsibilities. In the middle, both midfielders are good lined up. So wahed ma wahed, all good. Now, the striker, he's going to press. Good. But now this player, who here in red, he is too late. He is not doing his responsibility. So the striker is going to press. And because he is too late, he's not doing his responsibility, they get out of the pressure, and within one pass, they kill all the pressure, only because one player is not doing his job. He's not doing his responsibility. So you as a coach, if I go see the game and I see this player who making this mistake, I go see he do these mistakes also in other games. So now he do something good. Same time here in the back, 3 players, they stay against 1. So even there, they make a mistake defensively, and I will look for that to see that. So this is a defensive pattern for the blue team. So because of this, they create a chance, and they get to the goal. But the point is the responsibility. You need to look the formation versus the formation and responsibilities. Who is making mistakes there? Second thing, the Dortmund, they have 3 strikers, 1 striker and 2 who all the time move. Here, everywhere, wahed ma wahed. But it becomes problem if those start moving. So you need to have a solution for that as a coach. But when you analyze, you need to see this. So what is important? Because the responsibilities now, they become a bit more complicated because they start moving for those three defenders. Now, in the next clip that I'm going to show you, you see this problem. So let's say that the midfielder, and the ball is there, he makes a run. And what normally happens is that, in this case, the number 20 is not doing his job. Now we create a 2 against 1 in this zone. So this player, he has 2 players. Should I go with this one or should I go with the other player? But normally number 20, he should follow. Or what could happen is that everybody moves ahead and the problem is solved. You see it here in the video clip, where through one pass they kill the midfield, and you will see there every time in each clip that I'm going to show you, every time is 2 against 1 here. It's 2 players against 1 defender, and he gets confused because the player in the middle, the dark player, he's not doing his job properly. You can see it here in the next clip also. Here you see the 5-4-1 formation of Schalke. So they're going to change the ball to the other side. And what you will see is, you see here, all the responsibilities are good. Everyone is basically 1v1, but here again is 2 against 1. So there's a problem for the defender. He's pointing, and only because this defender there, they're playing their 3 against 1, he should move forward and the responsibilities become more clear, but they're not doing that. And that's why every time there's a problem and they create a big chance to score here, but it just goes wide. The next clip is exactly the same, but they will score. And same problem where you can see the midfielder is going deep, but here you see the 5-4-1 formation. Again, the center back will step out. What should happen? This is what it should happen. So they should move over and problem is solved. But you will see now, again, here the 2 midfielders, they are not doing their job. They are defending nobody. And again, you have a 2 against 1 because of the responsibilities are not clear. And only because those 2 players, they're not moving forward. They're not moving properly forward. And same clip you saw before, same like this one, and now they score a goal. This is clearly a defensive pattern for the blue team, a weakness. So that's something as an analyst you should see. Last thing, and this is very short, the decision of the coaches. What is important, you look into the coach, his favorite formation. If you look at his career, like you mostly can see if he plays maybe all the time the same system. I always play, I look at the quality of the players and then choose my system. I not always play the same system, but sometimes you have coaches, they play always the same system. So you already know up front when you're going to play them, what to expect. The overall style he used, you can look into the way he played. Is he an attacking coach? Is he a defensive coach? Does he play on counter-attack? Is an important thing to analyze. Is he conservative or proactive in his substitutes? If I'm losing a game, and I need to win, I will take full risk. I will never stick to the same system. I will have a plan B and I will go full out, because just waiting and gambling. So I'm a very proactive coach. I will take risk and I will go all out. If I lose 2-0, I lose 2-0. But just waiting and maybe looking for options, no. So some coaches, they always wait. And some coaches, they are, and so I always look in the way they change, players, their substitutes. And the overall personality, also something. If somebody is very, because in the game you can influence a coach when he's very tempered. So these are things that you should also take within your analysis. That was it. There is a lot of things more to talk about, but I try to make it an idea of how to analyze. And hopefully you had enough information. And if you have questions, please go ahead.